Just want to first of all, thank everyone for coming out. I know this is a recertification year, or it's the end of our MSR cycle, and I know a lot of people are looking for points, but hopefully you came here for another reason than that, to get some knowledge. And I'm here, I attend most of these things, and I always come away with some ideas, some new ideas that I can implement into my program, and I think that's what really this is all about. I want to thank John and Westchester for hosting this. What better place than to finish up our winter educational series. John has been a very good friend of mine for a long time, and I would consider him one of my mentors. He's got a wealth of knowledge. The things that he does day in and day out just amaze me, and I always feel like when I spend some time with John Kennedy, if I can just walk away with a little bit, just a couple of his things, I can't possibly implement everything that John does. I'm just not made up that way. And he's a special individual, special friend, and a great golf professional. And I just feel honored to be up here on the dais with him.
Thanks. Actually, I was standing here thinking about, I got in the golf business in 1972, and I worked at Sleepy Hollow from 1976 to 1980. And in 1978, my boss, Tommy Murphy, who was chairman of education for the Met PGA, and we used to actually do the spring educational forum here. We did it for many years, probably 20 years, Charlie, before we went to the Westchester Premier Theater. And our keynote speaker couldn't make it up from Washington, D.C., so I was out front helping register, giving people name tags with their names on it. And Tommy came up to me and he said, Dr. Miller's not going to make it from Washington. I said, well, that's too bad, because that's an hour and a half time block. And he said, so you're going to speak? And I said, I'm going to speak. And I said, I have no preparation for it. He said, you teach, you'll figure it out. So I said, the least I can do is get away from this table making up name labels and take a few index cards. So learning how to speak under pressure, that was my first experience, and it was a good one. And as I came back from our winter break, I was invited to do a couple of talks to some men's groups. One will be in New Canaan in April, and the other one is a men's prayer breakfast at Westchester County in May. And I said, I really don't have time to do it and prepare for it. But it's what Tom talks about. It's about giving back and making yourself available. And it's like many of you sign up for tournaments, it forces you to get ready. So hopefully today will give you an opportunity to get ready for the season. Obviously you've done all your preparation, or much of your preparation in the fall, in terms of buying, in terms of scheduling, in terms of staffing. But it doesn't matter. I've been doing this, as I said, been in the golf business 45 years, head professional for 35. It seems like every February, March, beginning of April, you have to turn the ship around, you have to get yourself ready. So our point today is we want to share with you our information, how to get yourself ready, how to make yourself more valuable to the club. We're obviously, in the particularly the last 7-8 years, it's a challenging time for clubs. And so the more value you can provide to your club, certainly the more secure your position will be, but truly the more of a golf profession it'll be. So hopefully, as Chris had said, and I'd like to thank Chris and the committee, as many years I've spent in education, the work that your committee has done, and the committee that preceded you that started with winter activities, is something very special. You've provided opportunity for professionals to learn. As Tom said, some of it's for people to get points, but really it's all about being a golf professional. So I appreciate the time and the effort your committee put together. And Tom had said that I've been a friend of his for many years, and I've been a bit of a mentor. I never think of myself as a mentor to Tom Henderson, because although our operations are very different, he never stops. He's always looking to push the envelope in terms of knowledge certainly about club fitting and instruction, but in terms of golf fitness, in terms of personnel management, there are few in our section that do it better than Tom Henderson. So I again, look forward to spending time doing that. And just know that certainly the two of us don't have all the answers. We look for you to share some of your success stories as we go through some of the topics. There may be some of the things you've done at your club that have worked. And I know that I am going to walk away as a better golf professional at 12 o'clock today because of the time I spent both with Tom and with all of you. So we will get started. One thing I'd like to say, I thought about some, and sometimes I get a little philosophical, but hopefully it pertains to your operation. I truly believe, and it may not be this year, it may not be this month, but there'll come a time when you will set the tone at your club. And you say, well, I'm just an employee and I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But the truth of the matter is a golf professional really is the most visible staff member at his club. So he's either going to set a very good tone or very moderate tone, something that's not that impressive. I think that if you look at yourself as somebody who, through your behavior, through the way you dress, the way you comport yourself, the way you interact with your members, just know that you really are the center of the club. And people look forward to coming to the club because they want to see you and they want to see your staff and they want to be involved in your operation. So just know that I believe that you have an opportunity to set the tone at your club. And if you do that, and if you do it in a very positive way, people are going to want you to be their golf professional. They're not going to be, okay, we can get somebody new in here or we can diminish his role. In fact, what they want to do is they want to come to you for advice and for leadership. So just know that I believe that it's an opportunity we all have, is to set the tone at your club. So Tom, I'll turn it back to you, and we'll just go back and forth on topics. And again, if a topic comes up that you've had personal success with, we'd ask you to share it with us. And if you do share with us, when you get up, if you just introduce yourself by name and club, that'll help some people come to know you a little bit better.
Thanks, John. Can everybody hear me? I'm going to move around a little bit. I can't stand still. I'm going to start off the presentation, if you have the outline there. The first thing, and this is something that I've come up with and I kind of live by. I'm going to share a little secret with you. Every day is an interview. Every day is an interview. Our business is so competitive right now. This isn't the 90s anymore. Guys in the room that have been professionals for a while, the 90s were the highlight of our careers. We had courses being built every day, and not enough professionals to fill the positions. Well, the tables have turned, ladies and gentlemen. We've got courses closing all the time, every day, and we've got a surplus of good professionals. So you've got to make sure that you're on your game every day. By that I mean a couple of things along the line, this line, as far as an interview goes. Make sure when you show up to work that you've got your hair cut and that you're groomed properly, that you're clean and you've got your hair cut. It's huge. You are on display every day. Make sure that your clothes are clean and pressed. I can't emphasize that enough. I've had some case studies that have worked for me, and I'd like to think that we turned them on this. It's huge. As John said, you're the cornerstone, you're the focal point of your operation, and you should look the part. The other thing is, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, make sure you shine your shoes every day. It might seem like something trivial, but I'll never forget, I worked at Seminole. I had the good fortune to work at Seminole for Jerry Pittman. And, it was who's who coming in and out of the shop every day. The people that we met, if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see some of the acquaintances I've had through working at Facebook. It was just a lot of fun and a lot of influential people. But one of the most influential people that I've ever met was a guy named Bob Ross, who's the longtime professional, a legend from ball patrol. But Bob had this unique way about him that when he met you for the first time, you felt like you knew him forever. And that's something that really stood out with me with Bob. But the thing and it probably doesn't do him justice, but the thing I remember the most is he said hello to you, looked you in the eye, made you forever, and looked right at your shoes. And said, why did you shine your shoes today? So little things like that. I mean, you wouldn't think of going to a formal where you're going to wear a tux and wear flip-flops, right? Then that's kind of what it's like if you don't shine your shoes and you're not clean. You can walk away with one thing today. It is an interview with them because you're getting to know them, but you want to maintain the relationship established there.
and Bob Ross, maybe he was a golf professional in Sawgrass, and because of his relationship with Al Nelson. And when I saw Bob 20 years later, it was at Walterswall, same thing. You remember who I was and remember the relationship I had with Al Nelson. So relationships, that's something that is very easy to take for granted. But when you hear stories about some tour players back in the 60s and 70s, where they didn't make a lot of money on purses, so they made a lot of money on corporate endorsements, the people who are successful, the people who remembered the names, took notes during pro-ams. So it's just like when you're dealing with members, you remember their wife's name, you remember their children, what school the child's going to, maybe the business that the member's in, maybe related businesses. All those things are not things you have to take notes on, but you remember how important it is. They say that people's number one, most important thing to somebody is being recognized. So when you think about it, when they come in the golf shop, and if somebody's looking at the TV or looking down or looking away, just like when you go into a store in a mall, I always use examples with my staff of you be the customer. If you go in a store and somebody's not attentive to you, or you go in a restaurant and it takes forever to get your order, how do you feel? Well, if you're a member at a club and you have that same experience, how do you feel? Well, to me, the opportunity is how do you turn it around? Because if most people don't pay attention, we have a great opportunity to pay attention. And by paying attention, we differentiate ourselves and make ourselves special to our club. I'm going to talk a little bit about time because we all spend anywhere from 10 to 14 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week for about 6 months. So it's not like you can spend more time at your club to show that you're more qualified and more valuable to the club, but it's how you spend your time. There are 3 things that I think are very important. Number 1 is technology, number 2 is phone calls, and number 3 is paperwork. And we all deal with it. So as far as technology, you have to decide.
Boy, I struggled. It was on my wish list for to buy TrackMan. The first one I bought, it was like, boy, okay, half a year tuition, college versus TrackMan, and it was on my wish list forever. So I got it. I'm so glad I did, and I actually have my second one now. Traded the other one in and got the wireless one. So trying to stay not only with technology, but trying to stay up on it. This stuff changes so fast. It changes so fast. The things that are out there right now. When I'm buying technology, I know it costs a little bit more, but I always buy near the top because it does change so fast. So buy, hey, I got this great deal on this thing, but it's like 3 models ago. Don't waste your money. It usually ends up in a corner or whatever. Just try to, if you can, try to buy at the top end of technology.
The tone is the golf professional. Is the golf professional interested in instruction, or is it something he wants to farm out? If you lose the sense of commitment to instruction as a golf staff, I think you're on very shaky ground. Tom had talked earlier about the fact that there are always going to be members who don't like the way you comb your hair, the way you dress, the way you talk. And that's the truth. I have members come in to me and say, John, they haven't said it recently because I've been here for too long. But in the beginning, the first 10 years, they'd say, everybody loves you. I said, trust me. I said, there are 1,000 members here. There are 200 of them that could care less if I'm their golf professional. Probably 100 of them would wish I wasn't their golf professional. I said, that's the nature of human relations. You can't do anything about that. You get up in the morning, as John Wooden said, your job is to get up in the morning, do the absolute, first of all, prepare as hard as you can, do the absolute best you can. You put your head on the pillow at night, you said you'd had a good day. And that's all you can do. But I think it's very, very important that you never get unengaged from teaching and playing. I know it sounds pretty simplistic, but there's a lot of changes going on in instruction. Obviously, TrackMan has shown us some things that when we were growing up in the business we thought to be true is no longer true. There are things in fitness, we'll talk a little bit later about that, with member engagement. But you need to be engaged on the teaching playing side. Last year I played with Tom in the senior, the pro in the senior division. And I hadn't played with Tom in a long time, probably 20 years. Could have been a long time. And, I always thought of Tom as like a pretty good ball striker, but, not a top player. But he was so good at so many other things, and I had so much respect for him in terms of his investment in teaching and instruction. And we played, and he was noticeably different. Now, guys don't get noticeably different in their mid-50s unless they work at it. So Tom obviously invested in his playing skills, and it showed, and I was very pleased. So if you get the encouragement to, and there is so many people in this section that know so much. I mean, I look out here now and I see so many people who are qualified teachers, and they're happy to share their information with you at a reasonable time. So if you want to go one afternoon and watch somebody teach or talk to them about what they do relative to technology, I'm sure they're happy to share it. But take advantage of it. Don't let it pass you by.
I think along with teaching and playing, especially with teaching, goes club fitting. And everybody that knows me, I mean, Diff, we've had a lot of talks. We've had talks about club fitting and how important we think it is. And we got involved early in the whole process. But one of the things that I think that you differentiate yourself is to have, obviously teach, but obviously have members come seeking you out to get your opinion on what they need for equipment. And I'm a strong believer of, Stu, if you're the guy that's teaching Mr. Smith, that you should be the one that's fitting him. I shouldn't, even though somebody thinks that I might be the so-called expert on club fitting, I think you know what you're working with Mr. Smith on, and you need to do the fitting, because I think you're going to have the inside track as to where you're going with that student. So it's one of the things that keeps us differentiates us. I don't want my members. I mean, I'll be the first to admit we're not making a lot of money when we sell a set of clubs. I mean, we make more percentage-wise when we sell a shirt. But I don't want my members going somewhere else to get fit for clubs, especially if I'm working with them, especially if I'm teaching them. So make sure, get some knowledge as far as the club fitting. There's so many fitting systems out there right now. There's so many programs out right now. I was very fortunate in Diff 2. We went through the Henry Griffiths fitting program, which was not, hey, we'll send you the cart and you go ahead and fit, or go for an afternoon. We had to go for a week. It was a week, 5 days, with fitting live students in classroom, and it was, I really thank them for that because they started the whole thing. As far as investing in yourself too, is take a public speaking course. I know I need to get better. One of the best courses that I ever took was a Dale Carnegie course, and I would advise everyone in this room, seek out a Dale Carnegie course. And we were fortunate one year, I think Don Beatty was our education chair. We did a 6-week program, 2 sessions a week. We had Dale Carnegie come in, and it was out on Long Island, and it was probably the single best educational program I've ever been to. Helped me tremendously. There's some other things. I sat in this winter. Michael Breed did I was staying with him down at the show, and he had to do a presentation, a media training presentation to the LPGA. He said, "You're probably not going to like this." He said, "Just, to come sit in the back of the room." He said, "You'll be the only guy there. Sit in the back of the room, and then, I'm going to speak for an hour and a half." Well, I went in and sat in the back of the room. I couldn't stop writing things down because I have no plans at all, thank God, for going into media. But if you think about it, we need the media training in our everyday operations, whether it's speaking to a ladies' committee, a men's opening dinner, announcing at the end of awards presentation, at the end of an event. So if you get a chance, invest. I know it's expensive, but invest. It's money well spent, and work on your public speaking and your presentation skills, because you are presenting every day. Every day. The other thing, as far as investing in yourselves, is we do roundtables. The section does roundtables every year. And I've always hosted one at Rounds Hill. To me, at the end of the season, right, Stu, we get together and, all right, it starts out, what's working for you? What did you have problems with? What's an issue? And it just kind of it helps me formulate the game plan for the next year after coming out of one of these roundtables. So, Charlie and his staff, we've kept that tradition going, that protocol going, where we have the roundtables at the end of the year, and if we ever stop doing them, I'm going to hold them myself. I'm going to hold one myself. So if there was anything that I wanted to walk away with when I leave my position, I want to be known. I want to be known as the guy that helped his assistants get their own jobs. I think for my little operation, I've got 11 guys that I've helped get their own jobs. I'd like to feel like I had a part in that. I just know that growing up, I had the good fortune to work for Jerry Pittman, I see Bob Ford doing the same thing to the nth degree. Bob, it kind of helps when you have Seminole and Oakmont too. If you work for him, it usually helps you at least get in the door. But I think of Gil Kavanaugh too. Gil, if you worked for Gil, you were part of the family, and you know, he went to bat for you when the jobs came open, and the net was pretty wide. So I think John would say the same thing, and obviously his track record speaks for itself, is how many assistants he's helped position into head or transition into head professionals.
And so we'll move on to communications now. Very important. You have the message, you know, as Stuart said, he takes the time to put together that handout at the beginning of the season. You could have the best operation in the world, but if nobody knows what you're doing and nobody knows what's going on, first of all, you're not going to get the involvement of the members, and second, you're not going to get the credit that you deserve for putting together the program. So you want to start talking about that?
One of the things that I did, and this is, I think, maybe a little bit reactive, is I was starting to hear whispers that we weren't current with emails, and you know, we still had the sign-up book, and we still do have a sign-up book, but for tournaments that you couldn't do it online, or we needed more information, and the members got inundated with so many emails from Betty at the club, who was our webmaster. They wanted it a little bit more personal. So what I did is I went and talked to some of my peers and found out, hey, do you do a newsletter? I came up with the Round Hill e-news through Constant Contact. I signed up for it. The club loved it. It goes out every Monday morning at 12:15 a.m. I set it to go out, so it's one of the first things they see on Monday morning. And it gives tournament results, upcoming events. We do a video of the week, sales. It's all on there. And you know, if in the wintertime, I might go every two or 3 weeks, and if I run into somebody on the street, hey, I really miss your emails or your e-news. So that was a positive thing that I did. Along those lines too, I have my assistants will do e-reminders during the week, and it comes from them. So the e-news comes from me. They see Tom Henderson, and for the e-news, for the e-reminders, which are just reminders like we've got a ladies event this week, and you need to sign up for the member guest in 2 weeks. That comes from my assistant. So I'll try to get everybody involved in the communications, and that was a home run. That's where we're at, and that's where we're going to be for a while. So that's what I do as far as the communications go, as far as using technology.
Last year we put in a video message board. So we have one in the men's locker room. We have one upstairs in the men's locker room, one near the fitness center, and one in the ladies' locker room. And so what we'll do is we'll put on pictures, put results. We try to do video teaching tips. It doesn't work necessarily because it's sometimes hard to keep the volume going all day, or people can drive somebody crazy. It's listen to Christmas music if you're working in a store. But I will say that people love to see their pictures. They love to see names. I had a staff member that put together a collage of junior activities and did some music behind it, and we sent it to all the board members. A lot of impact. So, you know, all the technology you have in terms of cameras, in terms of using emails. This year, Forties, for those of you who use Forties, they have an app that's available now. So it's a mobile app. That'll go live for Westchester on April 1st. So members can book tee times, they can book lessons, they can enter tournaments, and obviously we're going to use it to disseminate information. You have to decide what your personal strengths are and focus on a couple things and be very good. Be the expert at that. And then be competent at everything else. So you're knowledgeable about teaching, you're knowledgeable about tournament operations, you're knowledgeable about rules, knowledgeable about club fitting. You can't be an expert at all, but pick a couple of things that you're the go-to guy for, certainly at your club, if not possibly in the section, and then be competent, at least knowledgeable in those other things. I think that's very, very important. As far as teaching and playing, you know, we talk about it a lot in our section. We're known as the teaching and playing section in the country. We happen to have arguably the wealthiest, most active set of private clubs in the country. You know, office enough until probably maybe 5 years ago, you know, emails were not a regular part of our lives. Now people's expectations are you're going to get back to them in a timely fashion. So just know that you have to treat that as though it's a phone message.
Yeah, I would say this, that was something that I had a tough time with as far as getting back, responding to emails. And I kind of wanted to find out what the standard was. You said a timely manner. I sat down with my chair people, my ladies' golf chair and my men's golf chair, and I said, what's a reasonable amount of time to get back to you on an email? 24 hours is the answer that I got. So I think there are a lot of people out there who will expect you to get back to them sooner, but 24 hours I was told was acceptable. And I'd be interested to see your response to that.
Yeah, certainly you're not going to walk around the operation and be calling or texting people, because that doesn't look professional. You have to find a time before you start work in the morning, around lunchtime or in the evening, to kind of deal with your technology. Because we are in the people business, not the technology business. But yet it's very important that you deal with it in a timely fashion.
Also, the technology, we're talking about email, we're also talking about instant message. So a lot of our clubs have a no cell phone policy where I'm in my club, there's designated areas where you can use the stuff, but I actually have this watch, and this is not an endorsement for Pebble, but I have a Pebble watch, and I have my phone on me. I can't access the phone, but if somebody sends me a text or an email, it kind of buzzes, and so I can kind of see what's going on, and then maybe go off into a corner or something like that and take the call or return the text message. I found that to be very good. When I get a text message, to me, that's more immediate. You should respond to that, not within 24 hours, but like within the hour. And so that's the kind of understanding that I have with my men's golf chair. Is that he knows that if he really needs to get in touch with me and needs a response, if he texts me, then I'll get back to him quickly.
And then as far as phone calls, we get bombarded with a lot of phone calls. First of all, empower your staff to answer phone calls. Not to answer the phone, but to answer phone calls, to give information. We have, you'll see in one of the handouts we gave out, it's a list of staff responsibilities. Pretty simple thing. The responsibilities I have listed are pretty much generic. In other words, it doesn't matter if Jimmy White's at Cold Spring, he's going to have those same 50 responsibilities, but he only has 4 people to spread them out to instead of, I might have 20 people to spread them out to. But Bruce Brisky, who came back to work for me 3 years ago, he looked at it and he said, John, if you look at it, it's got dotted lines around it. Because we used to have straight lines. And he said, what I want you to do is, he said the dotted lines means everybody is responsible for everything. So if somebody calls about their driver, because somebody is not responsible for hard goods, doesn't mean they say, well, Brian's not here today, he'll call you back in 2 days. That's not an acceptable answer. So empower your staff to answer phone calls, be knowledgeable about procedures, but also my policy is if a member calls, they'll stick their head in my office and say, Mr. Ross is calling you, would you like to take a call? Probably 9 times out of 10, I'm going to take a call unless in the middle of something, because the member is calling for a reason. Now, if they're calling for a lesson, for a tea time, they're not going to ask for John Kennedy. So empower your staff to answer phone calls, because if you get bogged down in too many phone calls at the wrong time, you're not using your time effectively. The member comes up on a Wednesday, and you're in your office for 3 hours on phone calls, he's not going to know that you're even at the club. And then the third thing is paperwork management, and this is something that I didn't devise. I went to a time management workshop probably 20 years ago with Brendan Walsh. We went into the city, and it's a simple thing, but I'll just go through it with you quickly. You get 50 file folders, and you tab them 1 to 31 to represent the days of the month. And then the other 19, or as many as staff members, or you could have golf chairs, the important people in your operation, give them each a file folder. Then you have pendaflexes, January through December. You put them in a hanging folder in your drawer by your desk. Then you have a 3-ring binder, and you have that 1 to 31 to represent the 1 to 31 days of the month. Then every bit of paper goes into one of those file folders or one of those pendaflexes. So now it's March, and if somebody said, I need to speak to you about a tournament in September, I'll say, okay, I probably want to deal with that in July. That goes in the July pendaflex. It doesn't go on a pile on my desk that I have to look through 15 times. I'll look at it again in July. And then now for the 1 to 31 tab file folders, presently in my office there in the March folder, because now we're in March. And so today is the 12th. I took out the 12th this morning. Whatever papers I had to deal with are right in front of me. And the three-ring binder, I just turn to the 12th, and I have my phone calls down the left, and my tasks down the right, and now I start my day. I know what I need to do, I know who I need to call. By noon, my whole plan is blown up every single day. Every day. If I have 8 things to do, 10 phone calls to make, by noon I've gotten 1 thing done and 2 phone calls. But at noon, I have a pretty good handle on what do I have left now? How many hours do I have left to handle my tasks? I reshuffle the deck at lunch, take what I can't get done, spread them out to future days in that 3-ring binder, and at least I have a sense that I'm in somewhat control. I mean, there are days, and I've said to my staff, some days I feel like I'm just putting my fingers into a diaper, just trying to make sure that the whole dam doesn't break. Because there's so many things, and we'll have days where we have 5 different events going on at the same time. So you have 5 different events going on, and you have 45 staff, it's hard to keep it all organized. Fortunately, I have very good staff, and they are organized, but at least I have a sense that I have some control. And I've read books about time management, and basically what they said was, if everything is not in a place, it's going to float around in your mind, and you're going to feel very unsettled. And so you're not going to deal with people in a very interpersonal fashion. So how you deal with technology, how you deal with phone calls, how you deal with paper, to me is a big part of being of value to your club, because then you can be a true golf professional.
Great, John. Next topic about image and integrity.
Be that first person to step out. You say, well, it's a members club, I really shouldn't step out. So I'll give you 2 examples, simple ones. When I first came here, average pace of play on the West course, you can get off after 8 o'clock, was 5 hours. And I said, this can't be. We can't stand on this. And so I said, we're going to get Rangers, I'm going to have a program. I went to the golf committee, I said, I think I have a program that works. Some people will get upset. You know, we'll come up with some reasonable penalties. People will play after 11 o'clock if they get a second letter. So we did it. Within 2 years, we got it down to 4 hours. 4 hours on the West course is ungodly. But because people understand it's part of the culture now. If I didn't do that, it wasn't going to happen. Because there were a couple of good players who were grouchy guys that had a lot of leverage, and people didn't want to talk to them when I came here. And they said, I don't care. They weren't grouchy to me because they knew the man. Second, our 16 hole, which this year we're going to have the KPMG tournament, it's a short par 4. It's got trees in the corner, which over the 25 years I've been here, we've had 3 different architects and 2 different tours come and look at the hole and said, those trees need to come down. And so they said, well, you know, and now we've got a ladies tournament come, and it's 235 yards to the corner. Average carry for the ladies, with the exception of a couple of long years, is 220. I said it's going to be a problem. But it's more of a problem for our members than it is for ladies playing for 4 days. So I said, this is something that's important. I got involved with Bruce. We shot some distances, went to the green chair. He went to the president. He said, I think this is the time to do it. Trees came down. Some people go, you got to be kidding me. Those trees came down? Because it's almost like iconic trees. There will be a handful of people who will probably come to me and say, I know you were behind this. But I know that 95% of people will be so grateful because they won't have to hit a tee shot and then chip out and then do it. So just know that there will be some opportunities where you need to take a leadership role. You have to decide when it's appropriate. But by doing that, you know, you're going to do something that's good for the club, which is really what you're there to do.
Just going to talk a little bit about a couple of the handouts that I had, and then we're going to turn it over. Chris is going to facilitate some questions if you have it. And as I look at this, boy, this really needs an upgrade here. The golf equipment and inventory evaluation sheet today. John and I have been at our clubs for a long time. And in this day and age, it seems like it's, you know, not the norm, definitely. I'm starting here at 28, and John?
I'm a rookie, 25.
20 well, and the big thing that I've done on the job is I come up with 3 new ideas, and I've had peers of mine that said, you know, you're unbelievable. You reinvent yourself every year. And I know that's not just a guarantee, but it definitely helps my situation to come up with some new things every year and to put a fresh outlook on my operation. It's very easy to get stale and get complacent. And I think it's just human nature. On the other side, I have a friend of mine who's a little bit, but I think that it's important at some point you say thank you to people, whether it's your golf chair, your staff members, kind of
exactly what you're doing. They need to know that they're there to have a good time. That's the conflict, but making sure that they're there to have a good time. They don't need to know that you had a slow month of April. They don't need to know that the range rate broke. That's not their issue. You never bring your issues to them. But I think it's important that you show your gratitude. And the other thing I think it's important for me to remind myself, and it doesn't matter, you're looking around John and say, well, Tom's got a great job, John's got a great job, and I've got a so-so job, so these guys are talking about how to do all these great things. You're dealing with people. And if you're at a 9-hole public golf course, someplace where you get 8,000 rounds of golf, you're still dealing with people, and you're staffed with people. And so we have an opportunity as golf professionals to make an impact on people's lives. And if nothing else, if you don't get them to hit a better golf shot, if they never play in a member guest tournament, if they never buy a shirt in your life, but you say something kind to them, or you take care of their child, that's probably as much as anybody can ask in a life, the opportunity to impact somebody's life. I remember a number of years ago when I first came here, I had a young staff member who passed away at a very young age. And there was a member who was always seemed unhappy. And we raised a little fund to raise some money for the family of this young man. And he came in December and he gave me a check for $5,000. And I was pretty surprised. And I said, thank you very much. And he said, because my 15-year-old son died of the same disease 50 years ago. And so for 70 years, this guy had no joy in his life because he lost his son. And so I had looked at him as a grouchy guy, but I never got to know him. I never had that little window. So every time somebody walks into your shop, every time your staff comes in the morning, they have a life. And I think that if you respect that, and what? As Tom said, take advantage of it. You're not giving somebody golf lessons, doing a club fit, running a tournament, selling somebody a shirt, helping them schedule lessons. An opportunity to impact somebody's life. Take that attitude into the season. I think that you're going to show your gratitude, and people will know that you appreciate the position you have at your club.
Yeah, that's good. Section, it's handwritten thank you note. I show my gratitude. And they gave a great dissertation. Minute and a half. a junior inn club that we participate in with all the clubs in Greenwich, and that's been popular. This is the next level of doing this, and Jonathan's behind that. So if you have any questions, Jonathan's in the room about getting going on that, and he'd love to sign you up right now. On national, we don't host any national events, but I do have someone this year. One of our students, actually one of my assistant Ryan students, is in the finals of drive, chip, and putt at Augusta, so everybody's rallying around him. In fact, Ryan was down last week with him in Florida. This young man is a hockey player, took a little time off, went down for the weekend to get tuned up for this, and I think he and Ryan are going to go down one more time before he goes to Augusta, so everybody's and we publicize that too. And this guy's like a rock star at the club. Everybody wants to talk to him. He's a guy that's about this big, and he just pounds it. And so we're looking forward to that too. So, promoting that, first of all, being involved in hosting things like that if you can, and then promoting it once you have some of your students that are having success with it. So that's huge.
We're not going to wrap up yet, but a couple of things I want to make note. We talk about improving yourself for your members. There are two opportunities that are coming up soon. March 23rd, MetPGA is hosting a training day here at Westchester. We'll do it in our Learning Center for working with disabled veterans. And then what's going to happen this summer is it's called, I'm not sure if it's called Project Hope, but it's something. PGA Hope. And so it's an initiative by the PGA to engage veterans to give back to those who are disabled. And then at West Point, I think on 5 or 6 occasions, we'll get some of the disabled population up there and do some golf instruction. So the training day will be here on the 23rd. Now we've done something like that here at Westchester. Barry and Kevin Ravine is here, and Colin Thomas who work for me. And so we've been doing that, working with a gentleman from the Manhattan VA. But that sort of, to me, ties into Patriot Day, too, is that if you're involved with veterans, and if you're involved with Patriot Day, first of all, I believe it's the right thing to do as an American, so that's just my belief. But in terms of your vision, your image with your members, it makes a measurable difference. Because either your members are veterans or have veterans in their family, or I believe, because most members of country clubs are reasonably successful, they have an appreciation for people who have given themselves to giving them the freedom to have the careers that they've had. So I encourage you to think about coming on the 23rd or doing something for Patriot Day, because I think it's something that I believe is the right thing to do, but I also think it will help you in terms of being club professional. Now, at the end of April, when you get a follow-up email on this, we talk about helping your members play better golf. If you remember, 2 years ago at our educational program, we had Dr. Joe Lacaze come and speak, and he's a retired U.S. Navy SEAL, which is pretty special. But he developed an exercise device called Rotex. Now, he's a scientist. He's a biomechanist. He's a chiropractor. He's a guy who knows as much about the human body as anybody ever talked to. But he developed this device 7 years ago to increase stability and mobility at the same time. It doesn't happen in any other device. Any other exercise program, you're building muscle, or you're trying to increase mobility, this happens at the same time. He's going to give a certification here April 27th, 4 to 7, and he now has a home device that you can sell to your members for under $300, less than a customer drive. And he works with NFL teams, NCAA Division I, Olympic athletes, so he's worked with a variety of different type of modalities. But he has scientific proof that if you work on this machine, your range of motion in your hips and your shoulders are going to increase, which is going to reduce the pain in your back and your lower extremities. So it's a very exciting opportunity. So it gets back to what Tom said. You need to take the time to learn more about what's out there. Because, TPI, I think, is scientifically sound. But to get a member to spend half hour, 45 minutes, 3 times a week is very challenging. Very challenging. You're going to get some of those elite athletes who are willing to do it, and then you can put them through whatever needs to be done. So I encourage you to think about the veterans, think about Rotex, because I think it's going to set you at a different level. Because you're going to have members playing better golf, having less injury, but it shows that you care about being a better golf professional.
Is that through the section?
It'll be
The
through the
23rd?
the 23rd through the section. Both will be through the section.
Thank you.
All right, we're getting close to the end of our time. Yeah, Charlie?
One thing, just as you were talking about it, that I kind of thought might be worth mentioning is, we'll talk about events and administration. One of the things that we get a lot of calls in the office are issues with rulings and course setup. When I say course setup, not so much difficulty, but maybe a course that's not properly defined for a tournament. And it can be, it tends to be either ladies club championship or men's club championship or some event that's important. And I think a lot of guys, a lot of professionals kind of leave that up to the superintendent. And there's a kind of well, we always play the same rules here, and we don't cover their backsides by being proactive. So I just look for you and John's thoughts on that, whether or not you do get involved with marking the golf course, making sure that it is well defined, so that you don't get that, well, how are we supposed to know whether it's ground under repair or out of bounds or whatever?
I can speak for myself that my staff is responsible for marking the golf course, ground under repair, making sure the out of bounds is defined, making sure the hazards are defined properly. It never ceases to amaze me when there's an issue on the golf course. Who do they come looking for? They don't come looking for my superintendent. They said, you did this, talking to me. You set up the course too tough today, and you did this. So you have to work with your superintendent. We have a little bit of a battle here. And Charlie, we talked about this before. Pace of play is an issue, okay? And my God, where did I mark so? Roger Carrington the other day. I was cringing at how much time he took, and he set such a horrible example. Now he won the tournament, which even kind of justifies that in your members and your players' eyes. Well, maybe if I take that much time, I'm going to win too. All I can say is that the number one thing that comes up at our golf committee meetings is pace of play. We got to get the people around the golf course quicker. Well, my response is, and it's a constant battle, but you can't have green speeds that are 13, not for the club members, and you can't have 3 or 4 inch rough, because that slows down play. My superintendent doesn't want to hear that. And he doesn't want to hear that because he doesn't want anybody assaulting his golf course, especially when it's on display, whether it's a qualifier or whatever. You don't want anybody shoot. He doesn't want anybody shooting 63 around hill, because that means that maybe he hasn't done his job or it lessens whatever the aura of around hill. So that's a constant battle. And all I can say is on that is I'm constantly working with my superintendent and my green committee to make sure that my message is heard. And what's helped me too is it's kind of right now, I've got some people that are on the golf committee who preach about the pace of play who are now on the green committee also. So I think the message is there, but it's a constant battle, and I'm going to say it's not an easy one.
Yeah, we definitely mark the course for all the major events for sure. Make sure that the ground under repair out of bounds. We give them parameters for course setup, so I'll say a soft, medium, or hard course, depending on this kind of event, as Tom talked about for pace of play. So I don't say specifically the tee markers have to go here, but I'll say this is where how we want to lay it out, because you're right, Charlie, we are ultimately responsible for it. And and then being knowledgeable about the rules of golf so that you can deal with the situation on the golf course is very important, because that's very important. And one other thing I'll say about tournament operations, and I thought we did a good job with it, and then when Bruce came back, he kind of beat on me. He said, you don't do a good job with it. So the attention to detail for events, very important. When people come to an event, they want it to feel like it's an event. It's not just an afterthought. So it could be the littlest thing in the world. It could be the way you skirt your table for your registration when people come in and drop their bags. It could be, certainly pace of play is important, and actually I want to follow up on that when I finish. But make sure that all your details are taken care of, that everything looks proper and looks like an event. When they play in a PGA Pro-Am, they feel like they're playing in an event. and you want it to feel the same way for your club championship. We did a simple thing where we, for our club championship this year, we just put up the years of past winners. So if Tom Flanagan won in 1984 and he was in the match play tree, under him, it's at 1984. It was a nice little touch, but something Bruce had thought about to let people know that he was a past champion. So we do mark the course, and we do give them guidelines for course setup for events, because it's very important, both for pace and for the ability to make rollings.
You know, we've talked throughout our 2 hours here, or close to 2 hours, about relationships with the members, with the board, with the various committees, with your manager, and other department heads. The most, one of the most important relationships that you need to establish right from the get-go. Well, Ben, you probably argue with this one, but it's definitely with the superintendent. I always tell my assistants when they come on board, if you like to eat, you better establish a good relationship with the chef too, because it's just so important that you not only get along with your immediate group, but everybody at the club. And I work really hard at trying to do that. And just there's little ways to do that, but make sure, aside from everybody else, that with the superintendent that you have a good relationship with him or her as a base.
I want to talk about a few of the handouts I got, just so you're clear about what they are. So it says Staff Responsibilities 2015. And
We'll kind of go back to social media. This is one of the hot areas right now. We've had some people that have gotten into a lot of trouble by not handling the social media arena very well. I've kind of changed my view on it. One of the things that I do is, one of the questions I ask myself before I post anything is, would I want my daughter to read this? And that gives me a lot of leeway. Be careful. We've seen it with our 38th president of the PGA, got into a lot of trouble for some comments that he made on social media. You've really got to be careful. I was just down at a board control meeting down in St. Lucie, and the chair of our committee, four-person committee with the chair, and the chair is Susie Whaley. And I noticed since Susie Whaley got elected on social media, Facebook, and I don't think I ever saw her on Twitter, but on social media with Facebook, she was on there, she was pretty active before. Now you hardly ever see anything on Facebook with Susie unless she's, hardly any commentary. She'll like something or whatever, but it's very, very calculated, very conservative with her response here. So just be careful. I mean, for those of you who know me, I'm on Facebook probably more than I should be in the winter months. I've got some time, and I have some fun with it. But as the season goes, as we get going with the season, I'll be on it less and less, and I'm watching more and more what I'm putting on there, just to make sure I don't overstep any boundaries. When you deal with Charlie on a daily basis, or he likes to joke around a lot, and so you try to make sure you don't offend anybody when you go in the media, like we can do it in a phone call, we bustle each other's chops. Not that you would do that, Charlie. But just be careful with that. Be careful with that. As John said before, too, I mean, again, and you probably hear this more than I'm going to say what John said before, but we're the focal point. We're the role model for our juniors. We're a model or a role model. I wouldn't say for the members, but maybe it's just someone that they like to brag about, depending on where you're at, what club you're at, and like to show you off. So, it's very important to toe the line and to act responsibly.
Yeah, I just looked at this, and Tom talked about that you begin, every day is an interview. We did a workshop on negotiating for your contract many years ago, and I sat on the desk with Roy Pace, who many of you know, quality professional, great player, probably one of the best that made transition from a good player to a good club professional I've ever known. And Roy said a very simple thing. He said you begin your negotiations in March. And so that means that by your performance, that shows your value to the club. Not what you did the last 20 years, but what you're doing today. And if you think about that, And another phrase that somebody used a couple of years ago, I heard, I thought was great, pretend that this year is your first year at the club. Well, when it's your first year, you come out of the door and everything's new. I remember my first year at Westchester, my golf chairman said, what are you going to do next year? We came up with all these new ideas, and I said, well, hopefully each year I'll be able to upgrade the operation. Fortunately, I'm blessed because at a club as large as Westchester, I can have a large, qualified, talented, committed staff. And so their ideas are coming at me on a regular basis. So it's like I have 15 hip pros that work for me. They're all thinking about how can we do a better job in club fitting, how can we do a better job in tournament operations, how can we do a better job in junior golf, because they're empowered to really look at those areas, and they interact with each other and they kind of push each other up. So if you could leave today with nothing else, that when you go back to your club this afternoon, tomorrow, that this is your first day, and that you are, as Tom said, the focal point of your operation, and that you're beginning your negotiations today for your value to the club, it doesn't mean you have to be perfect every day. I actually put a note that I was going to share at the end, but I'll share it with you now. It's a pretty simple concept. Is that I believe in every relationship you have in life, whether it be with your club members, your staff, your wife, your children, that every day you're either making an investment or deduction in your goodwill bank account with that person. So everything you do is impacting that relationship. So your job is to make as many deposits as you can, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Every single day I make a handful of mistakes. Something I look back when I'm driving home and say, I should have done that better, I could have done that better. But if you're constantly making those deposits, what's going to happen? That bank account's going to be pretty full. So when you make a withdrawal, and it's going to happen, you're going to leave somebody out of the member gas. Possibly you're going to run out of range balls, hopefully not. You're going to forget to place a special order to do a follow-up. Or maybe you did a club fit and the clubs came in with the wrong line. Something's going to happen. That person is going to choose to be very upset or going to say, you know what, 99% of the time, they do a good job, and the staff does a good job. So think about always making deposits in that goodwill bank account. And if you do that, you're going to be very solid at your club. You wanted to talk about, I use the phrase, assume everybody knows everything. So it kind of falls a little bit into what Tom said about social media, because people put stuff out there, and all of a sudden people are seeing things they probably shouldn't see. So my feeling is that if I deal with member A, and he comes in and he wants a golf lesson, or he wants to play in a tournament, he wants to buy a set of clubs, he wants to buy a shirt, I should deal with him no different than member B. Now I'm going to have different relationships with all my members, because that's just the way life is. But if you can look somebody in the eye, and you can answer somebody knowledgeably and calmly why you did what you did, you're not going to have a problem. The problem is when you're having different relationships with different people, different deals with different people, friendly with some staff, not friendly with other staff. That's not going to work. It's going to come back and it's going to show you to be less than a person of integrity. You want to treat everybody with respect, with honor. It could be from a 14-year-old part-timer who's working on the range to your most senior professional. They're all human beings. They all have a life. They all have value. So I encourage you to think about that if everybody knows everything, and you can look somebody in the eye and you can explain why you did what you did, and I'll go into a board meeting or a golf committee meeting, and they'll disagree with what I say. But if I can explain myself, they may say, John, we want you to do it differently. But it's not as though they thought I was trying to cut corners, do something with life and integrity. So that little phrase, try to think that everybody knows everything, I think will encourage you to get the season started, deal with your staff, deal with your members, and what I think is a very professional and outstanding way.
Great job. Every time.
bring 2 or 3 together for a family function, you're welcome to do that. So, obviously, vendors, Chris Cash, staff, professional vendors, all that. More. So it depends on your leverage and the club, really well with your staff. You want to that's very, very important. So let's move on to
Visibility is so important. You don't want to be a ghost at your club. I never want to hear, even if I'm in, if I'm in the office, I don't want to hear, "Where's Tom?" Okay? Visibility. We at Round Hill, we do most of our play is on Saturday morning, Sunday morning, weekend play. So what I do is, and I teach a lot for a head professional, I teach quite a bit, but I will not teach I won't start teaching until 9 o'clock on the weekends. So what I do on the weekends is I am on the first tee, and I got this from, I believe I got this from William A. Mitchell, Charlie. I think William used to be the king of this. He was on the first tee. It's what I call shaking hands and kissing babies on the weekends. These are some people that are, it's our high traffic time before 9 o'clock. I want to be out there, just out there talking to people. How was your week? What's going on? And just, get out there, joke around. I think it's so important that the membership, especially the people that are playing on the weekend, see you before 9 o'clock. And so I will not teach before that. There may be an exception, like if somebody asks me to play and to go out on, maybe to go out at an 8:30 group or something like that, I may cut it short a little bit like that. But as you know how that is. You're out there on the first tee, somebody asks you to play, you're filling in, you're not hitting any balls or anything, you're just grabbing your clubs and going. So that's a special case right there. But I really do block off my book until 9 o'clock because I think that is so important with visibility. I think a lot of people have lost jobs because, hey, how many times have you heard this? He's never around, or she's never around. So be visible. You know the time. John's going to talk a little bit about doing paperwork. Know the time when, just know that your clientele, know your market, know when you need to be seen, and know when you can do that paperwork. John, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Although I'm guilty as charged because I have a lot of it. And so there's a lot of administrative work goes through my office. It's not a big office. It's pretty well organized, sometimes not, but you just need to know that you need to be there when it's important to be there. And so if I get here at 7 in the morning and I leave, not counting meetings, if I leave at 6:30 at night, there might only be 2 hours that's key for me to be out of the office, but I make sure that those 2 hours, whether it be staging times for shotguns, certainly scoring, I'm involved in scoring for every event. Not the ladies' 9 weeklies, but certainly the major events I'm there for. And said that when my children were young, I used to leave the club on Sunday at 2 o'clock. They lived in Westchester on Sunday at 2 o'clock. It was like crazy. But to me, it was very important. It was the only time I was going to be at home. And save Mondays. And summers, obviously, when the children are off, is when we're most busy. And so I encourage you to kind of let the members know that your family is important. Whatever it might be, that there has to be some window. And then when it's important, you got to be there. You can't be missing member guests. You're going to make a decision how your tournament schedule interacts with the club schedule. You have to make that own decision yourself. But I think that they just need to know that you're there and that you're confident. I was thinking when I was driving today, what is customer service? People use that phrase all the time. So customer service is not just a big smile and a handshake. That's not customer service. Customer service is performance. So that means you get things right. If you're a club fitter, you know what you're doing. If you're running a tournament, you know what you're doing. If you're in a golf lesson, you know what you're doing. If you're doing a special order for a member, you know what you're doing. So customer service is performance. And that's what it's all about, just making sure that you deliver. So if a member has expectations something's going to happen, it does happen.
The last segment, maybe talk a little bit about junior golf. I think part of the longevity that I've had at the club is I've never relinquished the junior golf aspect of part of my program. I head up I do a 6-week junior golf school and oversee, I'm involved in the summer camp and in all aspects. A lot of times what will happen, what I've seen at other places, is the head professional will kind of delegate that to the assistant and not have much involvement. And I really don't think that's a good idea. I would stay away from that. I would have your hand in it in some way, shape, or form. And the reason I say that is I can tell you in 1987, that was my first year at the club, my junior clinic was made up of 3 kids. Just three kids, that's it. And now we're 50, 60, 70 people, or 70 children. But I can tell you, out of the 3 people that were in that first junior clinic that I had, or the junior golf school that I had, 2 are on the board, 1 is on the golf committee. And so it's a lasting impression. They remind me all the time that where they started out, and they started out with me showing them the attention that they appreciated and that they deserve. So I would say keep your hand in the junior program if that's possible, because you never know when that person's going to be in power, going to be one of your bosses. So anything on John?
Junior clinics, one thing we did probably 4 or 5 years ago, I think, is we felt as though, the children sign up for a junior clinic. It's a hot Tuesday in July, and you see the 6 little kids dragging their U.S. kids bags, the reins, they drop them down, heads are down, and then the teacher's trying to encourage them. And so we said, this is not working, because the children aren't having a good time. So we said, what we have to do is and we were known as a leader in junior golf, but we didn't feel like we were giving them great information. Because if they're not interested, they're not learning. So what we did was we took a look at really some of the developmental things that go through learning the game of golf. And now when you take a junior clinic, they're going to do probably 5 to 7 drills in that hour. And each drill takes 6 minutes. And some of them do the official movement without a golf club in their hand. If it's putting, they're doing drills. So you're constantly keeping moving. And the kids are engaged. So we wrote that manual. And it's made a noticeable difference in terms of the children's enjoyment of the clinics, because parents are now coming in and say they're looking forward to it, and secondarily in terms of the retention. So they're not teaching with grip for 45 minutes, because it's just not going to work. So I encourage you to think about how you structure your junior clinics, and to think about developing a drill set that you can share with your staff and say, this is what we're going to work on. You're not going to just send out a 3-month intern and just say, go teach junior golf, and hope it works out, because that's not the right way to do it. So take your time to do it. The other thing we did a number of years ago, we developed an advanced junior clinic. And so it starts at 9:30 in the morning, and it runs through till 12, and we have lunch, and it goes from 1 till 3. And then for the children who want to play after that, we'll arrange some games for them either in the park or in the South Course. So that's usually for children who are 10 to 15. In the beginning we had older kids, and now we've got younger ones who are like 10, 11, 12. Again, it gives them the opportunity who want to be more engaged in just an hour. And we're very fortunate. We've got a big facility and a big staff that can do that. Some clubs you can't do that. You can't commit that much time because everybody's involved. Other areas of the operation. But I would encourage you to think about more of an advanced staff. Tom had talked about visibility and involvement. Barry Trino sitting here. He's one of my teaching professionals, been with me for over 20 years. And Barry doesn't teach a lot of the juniors, but he's had some very good players who have been students of his. But he will go out during the Junior Club Championship and watch the matches. And there is not a board meeting that I go to every year that they don't talk about Barry and sometimes other staff watching the Junior Club Championship. In Barry's case, he might be up for 3 hours, but it could be an hour of your time. But it shows that you care and that you're visible. and it makes a difference, and it's noticeable to the board. So having structured junior clinics, I think is a good idea. Having an advanced junior clinic, if you have the time and the staff, I think it's a great idea.
I think it's really important too that you have, that you have your hand in there in the events, both on the local level, the sectional level, and the national level. Locally, or at the club, we just started with a junior member guest, which has been was a huge success. We started that last year. As far as club championship goes, I send a staff member out with every group that goes out and plays the club championship. We don't do match play, we do medal play. And for the little ones, we have a limit as to what the height, the score can be, what the cap is. On the sectional level, if you're not doing it, you should be. My club has been very supportive of hosting a PGA Junior event every year. And once you get it on the schedule, it's there for good. It's there for good. So do something like that. Along those lines, we've got Jonathan Gold in the audience here. PGA Junior League. That's taking the nation.
Our quality teachers. If you want to share any success stories you have at your club in terms of, it could be an instruction program, it could be a package, it could be long-term development. It could be just little things you do as a teacher or as a club fitter that has helped elevate you in the eyes of your members. So anybody want to share anything that they do at their club? And just to follow up on what Tom had said about investing in yourself, public speaking is something that doesn't come easy to anybody. But if you don't force yourself to do it, it's like signing up for. You want to have those responsibilities written out so they're clear about what your expectations are. You want to evaluate staff. So I will start next week. I will start sitting down with each staff member and spend anywhere from an hour or more going over their season opening evaluation. And their evaluation is based on, they're going to answer 3 questions for me, and they have to give it back to me in handwritten form about what their goals are, what the operation are, how they can impact it, and number 3, how I can assist them achieve their goals. And so I'm going to get some information. I'm going to sit down with them, and if I was sitting down with Tom and he was on my staff, and Tom's goal is to improve his teaching ability and to improve his playing ability, I would say, explain to me how you expect to do that. And Daryl Kestner teach, I'm going to go watch Michael Breed teach, I'm going to go watch Mike Diffley teach. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to try to make time for you so you can do that. I want to improve playing. Okay, I want you to be specific. And I tell my staff every Sunday night, you know what your schedule is for the next week. And we work, the staff, not me, but they work 8-hour days, not the teachers. So I say, if you know you're working a 7 to 3, 3 days a week, those are your 3 days you're going to play. And if you're 3 closing shifts, usually we practice in the morning if you have time to practice. So those are the mornings you're going to hit balls or work on your short. And be specific about what you're trying to do. So taking the time to evaluate your staff, first to hire them and to evaluate them, is absolutely critical to the operation, because my members constantly come to me and say, John, you hire so many good people. And they say the synergy is so good. I said, well, I'm blessed because people want to work at Westchester, so I attract very good people. But I think it's because we take the time to be clear about what the expectations are, and we do the evaluations that we get the most out of them.
Same thing here. I asked all my staff members, kind of ramped it up a little bit, is to give me 3, I guess the power of 3, not to steal from the fix or anything like that, but people seem to handle 3 things better than, give me 10 things. I think it's easier to concentrate, but I want 3 goals every year. We establish the goals at the start of the season, sit down like John talks about. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, everybody on my staff evaluates everybody else, including myself. So I do a 360 evaluation, and I do it where I review the evaluation, what your peers think of you, as far as a team member and such. And we go over right before we get to August, before we go on break. So they have something to kind of, all right, this is how you're doing mid-season or whatever before break. And then we kick it in for September. September is really busy, and October kind of starts to fade a little bit. But you've got something before you go on break to see where you stand. And then we do a final evaluation too. So it's really important. I know that I beg the club every year for a written evaluation. I want to know if there are any problems, whether they're little, definitely if they're big, but even if they're little, because I want to know what the little problems are before they turn into big problems, and I want to rectify that. Along those lines, I try to be, that's more being reactive right there, but I try to be proactive. I try to think about what somebody might complain about, or where somebody might have an issue, or where the issues are with my operation, and I try to attack those before it can get to be a problem.
Yeah, and if staff feels that their opinion matters, they'll come with you with ideas. But if you either never act on them, or you denigrate them for coming up with the ideas, you're going to stop the flow of ideas. I remember, as a matter of fact, I think it was in the same time with Brendan. The guy talked about an idea program. And there was a book publisher in Greenwich that's educational books, and there was a gentleman that was working in shipping that was making probably minimum wage that did some investigation. He said, if we cut the diameter of the book by a 1/16 of an inch, we'll save $200,000 in shipping costs. And so he gave him a pretty nice bonus for coming up with that idea. Feel encouraged, they'll come up with ideas. If they feel as though their ideas don't matter, you never act on them, they're going to stop coming up with ideas. And no matter how many people they have ideas. As Tom said, he talked about the 360 evaluation. They have an idea about you. They have an idea about each other. They have an idea about how you're running the operation. And so you need to be open to those ideas, because you're crazy to shut that valve off.